Hi everyone, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to talk about a project that's been ongoing for a little while now and continues, and you'll see why. So, we don't know enough about spiders in British Columbia. It's just a fact. And we have to meet our mandate, which is to collect organisms that occur in the province. So the reason for the study is to figure out how many different species of spiders live in British Columbia and where do they live. We're not doing this in isolation. We've had a long history of people who worked at the Canadian National Collection. A couple of entomologists, their arachnologists, did survey the province in the 1960s and 1970s. In fact, they surveyed all of Canada, so we stand on their shoulders. They drove the routes, the highway routes, and set up pitfall traps. And then on the way back, they collected them, and then they had something to sort through when they got back to the Canadian National Collection in Ottawa. And their work created these handbooks, a series of handbooks, that cover 12 of the families of spiders that occur in British Columbia. We have 38 families of spiders in British Columbia. So you can get a sense that these books are incomplete. And now the data is quite out of date and more work needed to be done. But you know, when we started, we had their shoulders to stand on. So where are we going now? We're literally going where no one has gone before to collect spiders. So people have probably been there. And originally, you can see on the map, on the slide there, originally we spent a lot of time in the southern half of the province and we've covered a lot of ground there. We went high, we went into alpine areas, and we focused on places we could get to via trails. So you might recognize the Cathedral Provincial Park there in the scene. And we also really love ski hills, where you can drive to the top, or get a lift with the chair if it's running in the summer. And we also adore telecommunications towers, because they often have a road right up to the top, to the alpine. But we're now in the north, and the north is essentially unroaded and is very difficult access. So the work we've been doing the last few years in conjunction with the botanical team is to sample in the farther north areas. We have to do that with helicopter. And we sometimes are places that you think that very few people have been. Very few. Maybe you're the first. And we couldn't do this again without the collaboration of a lot of different organizations, corporations, companies, institutions. Anything from funding our flights through Pacific Coastal, or from volunteers collecting on our behalf who started out looking under amphibian boards for salamanders and started collecting the spiders that they found under the boards. So we really do have a team of people helping us. When I showed you that map earlier of all the dots, we haven't been to every one of those. Some of them we've had samples sent to us. So we're working as a coordinated effort for the province. And the WHO also involves some staff and a research associate, Dr. Rob Bennett. So you've met me, and the other person who is on staff is Claudia Copley. He really is willing to go higher, lift heavier rocks. He is definitely the brave one of us. And then Rob taught Darren how to identify spiders, and there'll be more about that later. So we work as a team when we're in the field, and then when we get back. And the how continued is we literally beat the bushes, we turn every rock, we dig through the soil, we rummage, basically. We rummage everywhere for spiders. And while we're there, because we're sometimes in places where we had to be helicoptered in, and it's unlikely that entomologists, or botanists even, will be taken there again, maybe not for hundreds of years, maybe never, we collect every single thing we can while we're there. So we're not just collecting the spiders and then thinking that later someone can come back and do the butterflies. We collect it all. Another how, I hope you come to the engagement table in the Clifford Carl and you'll see a Berlese extractor set up. This is how you extract tiny animals that are living in soil or moss or leaf litter. And it's incredible, the view under the microscope there of all the critters that will come out of there. Spiders aren't the dominant form of animal that will come out. Mostly it's mites and springtails, but there are spiders in there too, and they're very difficult to find any other way. So we use a Berlese extractor for that material. And then you'll also see the two spider experts in the lab. They have to spend hundreds of hours for every hour that we collect because it is very difficult work. You heard Ken's talk about how hard it is to distinguish between a couple of plants. It's like that for all the spiders too. You actually have to look at their naughty bits. So they have to be adult. And the spiders are most of them are less than half a centimeter long. So if you think about what their naughty bits are in terms of size, you can appreciate that this is painstaking work. And Darren and Rob are willing to do it. And it does involve much more work in the lab than it does in the field. So where are we now? Actually, this number for 2019 is out of date because it's 889 now. A new specimen, a new species for the province was reported just within the last 2 weeks in the Peace River area. Darren identified it, and its nearest location is Manitoba, although it is a widely distributed species. So you can see the fun's not over yet. At the top, there's a photo of the typical size of an adult spider in British Columbia. So do you see the fingernail? You see the scale is the fingernail. So when you're terrified of spiders, because you see the number that there are almost 900 species found already, don't worry. More than 2/3 of them are too small for you to even notice them. But that's the size that the naughty bits have to be looked at on. And another tool that I forgot to mention when I was on that slide, that you may have noticed people wearing a tube around their neck. Please come to the engagement table and you will see what we affectionately call a pooter, also known as an aspirator, more formally. When people see us using that, they think it's because we're afraid to touch the spider because it might bite us. But now that you've seen how small the spiders are, you can see that we actually use a pooter because we do not want to harm the spider. So it's the opposite that you might have thought. You'll also see out in the hall, you'll see a drawer of insect or spider specimens, how we store them. They're kept in alcohol their entire museum career. And also there's a map showing the results to date. So you can see there are some areas of the province where we haven't fully explored. I feel certain that the Chilcotin Caribou area has a lot more species in it. We haven't had enough time and we haven't been to the mountains in that region. So we're definitely going to target those areas. And the coast is also very complicated. There's deep moss layers. There are a lot of undescribed species in there. Tiny spiders. One of our biggest collaborations is with the Barcode of Life at the University of Guelph. Whenever we have new records for the province, a leg, the specimen goes to Guelph, they take off a leg, they take its photo, they grind up the leg, and they get the DNA from it. And that DNA supports the library, the DNA library that they're creating. And then that work also supports us because we find species that we don't know, the male and the female, we can't associate them. Or the species isn't known. And so the work that they're doing helps elucidate male and female so that you know they're a match, and also helps if you're not sure if you have a new species, it will also help you with that. It won't name the spider, but you can do that, which we have done. We named a spider Apostolus ducati because it was so speedy. And that was Rob Bennett's choice because he's a motorcycle aficionado. I probably would have gone with a Latin word for fast, but I didn't win that battle. And then more recently, the Rainier of Canada checklist has been produced, and this list indicates that there are about 1,500 species of spiders in Canada, and we have almost 900 of them in British Columbia. So we definitely have a huge diversity of spiders relative to the rest of the country here in this province, and that's because we're so mountainous. And now for something completely different. Not everyone came because they wanted to learn about spiders, and I've met people over my entire life when I told them I was interested in insects and arthropods in general that didn't like them at all. But I've never met anyone who doesn't love a hummingbird. So I thought I would put our work into a different context. I told you that our spiders get barcoded the DNA library at the Barcode of Life. So someone locally took baby hummingbird poo, isn't that cute? And they collected baby hummingbird poo because they wanted to know what hummingbird mums are feeding their babies. They took the poo, they sent it off for DNA analysis, and believe it or not, and we did know this, but they know exactly what kinds of spiders hummingbirds are feeding their babies. They also feed them a lot of flies, nod to Joel's work, but they also feed spiders, and we know exactly which ones. So you might not think that the work that we do is important in terms of spiders, because you might not like spiders, but I bet you love hummingbirds. Thank you.